So hello everyone and welcome to the webinar Productive Collaboration, an introduction to Infragistics Mobility Solutions. My name is Kirill Matev and I'm a solutions consultant for Infragistics, and I will take you through our mobility applications and demonstrate how they address the mobility challenges that enterprises are facing nowadays. So with mobility being one of the key challenges in front of enterprises this year, we're having a lot of companies reaching out to us with the question, how do we effectively mobilize content stored in SharePoint? How do we bridge the mobile productivity gap? How do we make our mobile workforce truly productive when they're out there in the field? So in this specific webinar, I'll take you through SharePlus Enterprise and illustrate how it addresses the challenges in mobile work and how it can help you make your mobile workforce truly effective. So let's get started by opening SharePlus Enterprise here. So the very first question that a mobile worker needs to answer is, how do I get to my content? So SharePlus is unique in that it allows a user to quickly get to what they need by providing separate access points for sites and documents. And these are specifically the documents and sites items here in the panel on the left. So let's start with the Documents Content Hub. So the Documents Content Hub brings together documents from a variety of data sources, providing a document-centric view. So when you're looking for a document, you always start in this view. So let me go through some of the views here to show you how rich this view actually is. So in the main view, you see the documents that you've opened most recently. With one tap, you can open any of these documents and you can start working on these right away. You also have a listing of the documents you're following, documents you recommended, and these views are only available for SharePoint 2013. If you're running an older version of SharePoint, like SharePoint 2010, these lists will not show any items, just like they are not showing any items here in this demo. I can also access the favorites view, so these are documents which are specifically added to my favorites. And any of these documents can live on any of the sites which I have configured. As you can see, this is a document-centric view. We don't care where these documents are stored. All of them are basically one tap away. They could be 10 levels in. I can still access them with a single tap. I can tap on the My Documents item along the bottom. This gives me immediate access to the SharePoint My Site functionality, which is now called the Onedrive. Except this only gives you the documents and provides you one-tap access to documents you have stored in that location. I can also open local files, so these are files which are managed by SharePlus exclusively. They are not uploaded to the SharePoint server or to OneDrive. They are basically versions of files that I'm working on locally before I share them with anyone else. The final view here is edited by me. This is a very useful view if you're editing more or less the same documents across different sites. And it allows you one-tap access to any of these documents. So you can see the goal in this specific Documents Content Hub is to give you one-tap access to your documents regardless of where they are stored. And that's what makes it very powerful for users who've never experienced SharePoint, who aren't familiar with the concept of sites, subsites, document libraries, and so on. This allows them to abstract away all of that complexity and work with documents directly, which is very powerful when you're trying to introduce new users to SharePoint and to mobile platforms. So now that we've looked at the Documents Content Hub, let's take a look at how SharePlus allows you to access sites. Very often you will have to have sites configured, of course, to enable you to access the documents in there. But very often your users would want to actually browse through the site structure themselves for whatever reason. So again, here you have right on top the list of portals which have been configured by me personally by adding these manually, or these sites have been pre-configured as part of the central configuration which SharePlus Enterprise supports. This allows you to essentially add the URLs of these sites in a central configuration file, so users would get them automatically added in this list, and they won't have to type URLs, which is a real hassle on a mobile device, typing URLs. So Let's open one of these sites here and let's browse its contents. But before we do that, you can see we have the list of recently accessed sites. We have the list of sites you're following, sites that have been recommended. Also, you can have favorite sites in this view, and so on. So the goal here is, again, to bring together sites that are relevant to this user. But in this case, we'll open one of these sites here, the sales demo site. And you can see, we can see the full site structure. We can see the document libraries. We can see the lists. For example, I can browse corporate news. I can browse the calendars. And you can see this content is presented very nicely with native UI. I can browse my calendar using different views. So you can see this is a very powerful display, which allows you to bring in a variety of content types together into a fast and intuitive native experience. So this being said, let's go into one of these document libraries and let's start working with documents, because most users use SharePoint for document storage and collaboration. So in this view, I can choose the visualization that I'd like to use for this specific document library, depending on my needs, whether I want to see, for example, all the properties of a document or just some of them. On top of that, I can also select the views which are used. For example, you can have multiple views defined in a document library, and you can filter, for example, documents which are approved for use from documents which are set as drafts, all living in the same document library. So your user can very easily switch the different views, and that's very important because it allows them to cut down the number of items visible in any view. Because when you're on a mobile device, you don't want to spend your time reading individual items. You want to filter as much as possible the amount of items you have to look through before you actually open any one of them. And that's why this capability is very important. And of course, right from within here, I can open any of these documents with a single tap. I can tap on this Word document, it gets open immediately, and I can access it easily. So you can see how quickly I was able to access these documents, how quickly I was able to navigate. One of the key features of SharePoint Enterprise, which addresses the challenge of navigation on a mobile device, is called launchpads. Launchpads are effectively highly customized navigation experiences which focus on allowing your user to have one-tap access to the critical content that they need in their work. So what you see here on the right is one of the launchpads which we have as part of this demo environment. You can see these brightly colored regions. These regions are essentially links which take me to different locations inside SharePoint sites. So with a single tap, for example, I can tap on Document Center and I can navigate to a document library, and I can see all the files in there. I can open these files with one tap. And tapping back, I'm back on the top level in this very user-friendly, very touch-friendly, brightly colored, large targets, easy to hit. This is very important for a mobile user who's always out there in the field. They don't have a lot of time to read through small links like they would be able to when sitting in their office reading links on a browser. So this allows us to integrate the easiness of navigating with these very touch-friendly displays with the access to content that's only a touch away. Something also very important here is that you're able to integrate the web view right within SharePlus. For example, I now just clicked on the SharePlus logo at the bottom, and this launches a web view which opens a location that I have specified. So this essentially opens a web viewer, a stripped down version of a web browser right inside the app. And this is very important for mobile users because some of them might still want to access content that lives in a browser. For example, for whatever reason, they might want to access a team site or a corporate site that's not SharePoint based. You can provide a link to that, and you can see I'm interacting with this web page. I can click any of, I can tap on any of these links, and of course I can open this in Safari and transition to Safari, or tap done and be right back inside the application. That's very important because we're not actually going through an application switch. when we're displaying web content. And that's very important for keeping a mobile user engaged, being able to present data very quickly and without leaving the application. So you can see how we're able to integrate the easy navigation inside SharePoint content with an in-app browser experience. And what's very important to mention here is that this content, all of these covered links, this is basically an HTML page that's rendered inside the application. So you have all the flexibility which HTML allows you to render content here and to basically determine the size, the coloring, the fonts of these links, and where they actually point to. So this is where you are invited to create your own Launchpad to make this as productive as possible for your specific users, to allow them to access the content that they need specifically. So this Launchpad that we just saw, the focus here was clearly on easy navigation because of the bright colors and a large font size and easy to hit targets. However, you can do a lot more with Launchpads. And in this next Launchpad that I'll show you, the goal here is not so much easy navigation, it's easy content consumption. So let me unpin the panel on the left here to display this Launchpad in the full available screen size. So what you see here is, again, basically an HTML page that's rendered inside the application. This one is much richer. We have an HTML content rotator, which is driven by a news feed from SharePoint, for example, or from any other internal data source that you have. The power of having this HTML page here is that you can integrate with any data source internal to your company in the form of a web service or any other way. You can deliver data into this view, or an external data source. You can integrate with, for example, any of the public APIs out there to deliver any sort of information. And you can basically create a mashup of content from outside of your organization, content from inside of your organization, and content stored in SharePoint. And you can put these all together right inside SharePoint to allow your users an easy-to-use overview and also an easy-to-use ability to navigate inside SharePoint where the critical information is stored. So let's interact with this Launchpad a bit. For example, you can see we have a product ideas and brainstorm list here on the left. I'll tap on Better Calculator for XT300. You can see how richly this is presented. And once I tapped on it, I'm taken to a discussion group. And I can respond to this thread. I can read this thread in its entirety. I can see the responses of my colleagues. So you can see how I was able to move very fluidly from an overview, which is very well presented using all the richness of HTML with styles, with highly usable formatting, into a native view, which allows me to directly interact with the content with native UI. Very importantly here, I can also open documents. So from the panel on the right, I'll just very quickly switch to the Documents tab, and I can, with a single tap, open the XT100 Administrator Guide. So you can imagine how powerful this can be for a business user, because you can create a Launchpad for them which puts together the documents that they use in their daily work, the communities that they're a member of. They can tap on any of these links and navigate to the discussion group or specific site that they use very often. And also they can see their calendar, which is, of course, in the form of SharePoint calendar appointments. So I can open one of these calendar appointments directly from the Launchpad itself. So that's what makes this view so powerful. The power to basically integrate data sources from a variety of internal, external, and SharePoint-based sources makes this an open-ended solution where you come in and you customize it for your needs in the form of a simple HTML page. Something that empowers you to do this is the fact that SharePlus implements a special API which allows it to communicate with SharePoint through SharePlus. So effectively, from the HTML page, you can get content stored in SharePoint lists. So for example, you can get the list of documents in a document library, you can get the list of appointments in a calendar, and this is exactly what we've done here. For example, all these items that you see in the calendar, they are retrieved over this bridge, so to speak, between the HTML page, that's actually the Launchpad, and SharePlus, which provides it a gateway into SharePoint. So this allows you to create very powerful integrated views of structured and unstructured information, and to have everything in a very, very appealing view. So with this being said, let's transition to a third Launchpad, which demonstrates another very powerful way of presenting information, specifically for salespeople in this case. So you can see in this Launchpad here, we have a beautiful looking chart right on top. As a salesperson, I can easily see my progress towards my total. I can see how many new opportunities I have. I can see the recent progress I've made. I can see with these gauges towards the bottom where I am in my progress towards the target. So you can see how appealing this view is, how well styled it is. And this is just an HTML page that's driven off data from SharePoint or any other internal data source. So let's say I'd really like to drill down into the specifics of my performance. So I can very easily tap on this chart, and that will take me to a Report Plus dashboard. So Report Plus is a sister product of SharePlus, which focuses on mobile touch first, mobile first, touch first dashboarding experience. So SharePlus can essentially open these Report Plus dashboards, which integrate data from a variety of data sources and allow you to interact with it in a very rich way. So what you're seeing here is a live dashboard that was generated on the fly when I opened it, and I can open any of these widgets really in this dashboard, then I can interact with them. So for example, you can see I opened the chart, I was able to zoom in. I can focus on this chart here, for example. But very importantly, once I've reached a certain conclusion about my performance, for example, let's say there is a particular piece of data that's very important for me, how do I communicate that to others? Tap on the action menu. I can very easily export this dashboard, and we support a variety of export formats. For example, I can create PowerPoint slides or a PDF document, Word document with a single tap right from within the application. So that gives you a lot of ways you can communicate this to others. However, if I want to communicate this one specific piece of information to someone, I can email them the dashboard to allow them to build it on their own, of course, if they have all the permissions to access the data sources which are required to populate it. Or even faster, I can email them an image. So they won't be able to generate the dashboard by themselves. They'll just see the image of whatever I'm looking at right now. And this is where the key collaboration feature comes in. SharePlus gives me the opportunity to annotate the image before I send it. So I'll tap yes, and I can communicate directly with my colleagues to tell them exactly what they should be looking at. So for example, I can say, this is very important. Take a look at this. We should discuss this. And I can add a comment, for example, to specifically point them to a certain piece of information. So you can see how easily I was able to generate the dashboard on the fly when I'm mobile out there in the field, to identify a certain piece of information that's important for me and my colleagues, to annotate this this view, and now I'll be able to email it directly to a colleague right from within the app. The new email dialog shows up, and it has this image attached. So I can email this with a single tap. You can see how powerful this type of working with SharePoint and SharePlus can be for a mobile user. And that's key for a mobile user, being able to transition from an aggregated view, which shows you an overview of what's important to you, to a very specific drilled down view, which allows you to interact, to annotate, and then communicate to other users in your organization. Of course, here in this dashboard on the right, you can see we have some links to documents, we have a news feed, and these again come from some of the SharePoint sites. So this is the kind of dashboard that you can create for yourselves to empower your mobile users to have a highly customized experience navigating your specific data. And that's why launchpads are so powerful, because effectively this is where you take over and this is where you create a customized solution for your mobile users. So let me switch back to the home launchpad and go back to one of the important questions that a mobile user has when they're using a mobility solution. How do I interact with content? This is one of the most important reasons for choosing SharePost, its ability to make data offline available. So how do we make content offline available in SharePost? Let me demonstrate that very quickly. I'll tap on the Sites Content Hub. I'll open the sales demo. I'll navigate to the sales docs document library, and I'll open one of these files here, Contoso Desktop Products. So let's say this file is very important for me. I want to have it available for offline use. I'll tap on the Actions menu, and right on top there's a switch here, Keep Offline. Quickly activate that, and this file is now available for offline use. This file will be automatically synchronized from this point on for offline availability. So let's say that all of these documents in this specific document library are very important for us. So how would we synchronize the whole document library? Tap and hold on the document library and use the exact same process. You can see there's a switch which says Keep Offline. I'll quickly activate this switch. Of course, SharePost tells me there's a file in there that is already set for offline availability. Do you want to lose these settings? Yes. Basically, I'm overwriting the settings of that document for offline availability. So now the whole document library, sales docs, will be made available for offline use. So let me navigate back inside to sales docs and tap and hold again on one of these items. So now I'll add an alert by tapping on this little bell icon on the top right. This essentially tells SharePost to notify me proactively when anyone makes any changes to this file. And this is very important when you want to be proactively notified when something new is uploaded, when a new version is uploaded to the server. So now that I've added this alert, let me actually go offline. Let me simulate work in the field, for example, by switching the online switch. In the panel on the left, we're now offline. The application is offline. Of course, the device isn't, so I can broadcast my screen. So let me go back to this specific site, tap on Sales Demo, go to Sales Docs, and now you can see I have these files here available for offline use. So let me open the Contoso Desktop Products file and let me edit it to demonstrate how you can interact with content offline. So tap on the Actions menu, tap on Open In, and now I should be able to see the applications which will allow me to edit this content. From this list of applications, I'll choose Polaris Office. Of course, there's many applications you can use to edit Office type document content. I like using Polaris Office, so this is the tool that we'll be using today. So while this tool is still opening, SharePost integrates with all of the Office type document editing tools simply by supporting the open-in protocol that iOS provides. So this allows you to basically use any tool out there for the purpose. So now we're in view-only mode. I'll tap on this icon here to switch to edit mode, and I'll make a small change here. So let me very quickly move the cursor a bit. So let's say documentation, update 3. Go back to view mode only, tap on the context menu, save. We have to save the file before we open it back into SharePlus. So now we've transitioned away from SharePlus into Polaris Office. We've edited the file, and now with Open In, we're going to pass the file back to SharePlus. So from this list here, I'm selecting Open in SharePlus. So now SharePlus is resumed, and it receives this file. At this point, it asks me, what do I want to do with this file? Do I want to open this file? Do I want to copy it somewhere? Or do I want to update the original item? So I'll update the original item, and I'm asked whether I want to modify any of the metadata. I don't want to modify that. And now there's a new version. You can see there's a little blue ribbon on top of the icon of this specific file, and there's a red link, one update, right on top, which allows me to see all the pending updates. So if I edit 10 files, you'll see all these pending updates here. If I delete some files or add some files, you'll see all these changes on the site level added to this list of updates here. So now that we've made this change, let's go back online. Let's say I've returned from the field into my office, or I've returned back to an area where there's coverage. Switching back online, instead of relying on synchronization to happen automatically, which happens after a certain timeout, I can trigger it automatically. In this case, I didn't have to. Synchronization started automatically, and you can see how it progresses. The file that I just edited is being uploaded. You can see a variety of document libraries being refreshed here, and you can see the sales docs document library is synchronized. That's right on top here, and that's actually the file that I changed is being uploaded, and new files are being downloaded from the server to my iPad. And you can actually see immediately the alert being displayed. The file that I modified was uploaded to the server, and I'm notified that this file is changed. This is a very powerful feature for mobile users, because they don't have the time to actually go up and down document libraries, finding out if there's a new version of content. They are following content they're using every day. So by proactively defining alerts on files and on document libraries, your users are very easily able to keep track of content and be notified whenever there is new content uploaded. So you can see how you can set an alert on the document library. Tap and hold, and on the top right, there's a bell icon. There's a bell button. Activate that, and you'll be notified of any changes anyone makes to this document library. So now that we've uploaded this new version of the file, now that the alert has shown up, let me just very quickly show you that the alert, that the update is actually reflected. You can see here in the third row, this is the new text that we entered. So the version that I updated is available on the server and on my device as well. So in addition to editing documents, one of the most often used document formats and one of the most often one of the most frequent use cases that we see out there is accessing PDF documents. And one of the key differentiators of SharePlus versus other applications for accessing SharePoint content are the important additional capabilities for PDF files, such as PDF annotations and PDF search right inside the application. So let me demonstrate this to you very quickly. I'll tap on Documents, then tap on My Documents. This takes me to my OneDrive, which is my personal storage. It's a very powerful way of providing an alternative to cloud storage services such as Dropbox, Box, and all the other ones who are typically outside of your control. They're not backed up by you. They're not secured by you. So if you'd like to essentially have users store their personal data internally on your managed SharePoint environment, this is a very important step, and this is a great way of doing that, because SharePlus gives you native seamless access to this folder, and it treats it just like any other folder. It can be taken offline. It can be accessed just like any other document library. So let me open one of these PDF files here. So let me tap on Get Started with Quick Office. This is actually a documentation quick reference document that I downloaded for a quick office. So this is a PDF document. Of course, I can page through it using the pager, but very importantly, I can search. Tapping on this little search button right on top, I can, for example, search for Drive to find all occurrences of Google Drive, for example. You can see all the hits are presented in this panel on the right. This is very important for mobile users because quite often the reference documents that they use are quite large. Documents of sizes 60, 80, 100 pages, which are manageable on a laptop. They're outright impossible to work with on a mobile device. And that's why having built-in PDF search is very important. So your user never has to leave the application, and they can immediately navigate these large documents to the page which contains exactly what they need. So now that I've found the relevant text I was looking for, I'd like to annotate it by tapping on the little pencil button on the top right. I have a variety of annotation tools to choose from. For example, I can use arrows. I can modify the color of these. I can use any freeform annotation, and very importantly, I can highlight, I can underline, I can do strike-throughs. These are the classical annotation features that your users will use. So in addition to that, we also give you the ability to add freeform comments. For example, I can add a comment very quickly like this, and I can then move it around, I can delete it. So this is a fully featured annotation engine, which allows you to have text-based, freeform comments, and of course stamps to indicate that, for example, this document is now approved for use. I've added these annotations, and I'm going to save the document. Well, this document wasn't. Let me actually copy it to a different location. So let me copy it to the sales docs folder that I have. Save here, save. So this now saves the document in my sales docs folders, and from this point on, it should be accessible from there. So copy to is successful. I'll dismiss the viewer, and now we're back to the original view. So now that I've annotated this document, how do I share it with my colleagues? So I can either email it directly, or even better, email a link to it to allow my coworkers to interact with it in a richer way. So tap and hold on an item, and in the Actions menu, right at the bottom, you have a few options. Email the document itself, which isn't really a great idea because the recipient will have just an isolated version of that document. They wouldn't be accessing the latest version on the server. They'll be accessing a copy, or email URL. That's where you have a lot more power in terms of allowing your users to always interact with the latest version. So in this new mail window here, you can see we have two links that we'll be emailing to the user. Using the web URL, your recipient can open this content directly on a desktop or in a web browser. This is essentially a web URL to this content. However, using the second link, using the SharePlus URL, your recipient can open this document directly in SharePlus on a mobile device, including when they're offline. And this is very important because your colleague will receive an email which has this link in it, and with a single tap in their email client, they will directly be taken into SharePlus, and SharePlus will navigate the document hierarchy to open this file directly. So your users will not have to navigate to get to the document. The document will be open immediately. And that's very important for a mobile user because it's useless to tell them, well, navigate 5 levels in to get to the actual document. You're sending them a link which from their mail client, when tapped, will open SharePlus directly at that location and open that content. So with this very, very important feature, you're able to collaborate much more effectively. You're able to share information much more effectively. So now that we've been able to navigate very quickly using the content hubs, using the launch pads, we've been able to take content offline, edit it, annotate it, share it with our colleagues. How do we discover additional content that's relevant? So as a mobile user, you just don't have the time to look for new content that's relevant. However, it's important to discover content that's relevant when you're out there in the field. So probably the most important content discovery mechanism is search. So by tapping on the search item here in the panel on the left, we're taken into the so-called enterprise search functionality provided by SharePoint. This integrates directly with a full text indexing engine provided by SharePoint, which indexes all of the Office type, PDF, and other types of documents which it's aware of. So I can search directly within all the files that are exposed by all the SharePoint sites that I have configured. In this case, I'll search from Contoso. Let's say Contoso is a big customer of mine. I want to find all the documents connected to this customer. So you can see how I'm getting hits from a variety of different sites in parallel. I can open any of these with a single tap. However, very importantly, SharePoint provides me with the ability to define filters. And this is key to a mobile user because more often than not, you're looking at large document repositories, so quite often you're looking at hundreds of hits. And on a mobile device, you definitely don't want to scroll through large amounts of data. You don't want to read each and every title of a document. So that's why using filters is key. So for example, if I know I'm looking for a PowerPoint presentation, I can set that very easily. If I know that this file was modified last week, or if I know that it lives in a certain site, I can very easily set these filter conditions to cut down on the number of hits. And you can see now, for example, I'm only showing PowerPoint presentations to allow me to cut down the number of hits I need to look through before I actually find what I'm looking for. In addition to the text search for documents, SharePoint Enterprise also exposes the people search provided by SharePoint 2013. So by tapping on the people item along the bottom, I can search within the profiles of the people profiles stored in SharePoint. So let's say, for example, I'd like to see the content that one of my colleagues is following. So her last name is Davis, so I'll search for her in the directory, and I found her, Sarah Davis. I can open her newsfeed, which is managed by SharePoint 2013, and I can see the content she's following, the posts that she's added. I can like or respond to her posts directly from inside SharePoint. And for example, I can open the content that she's following directly with a single tap, or I can respond to any of the statuses that she's put out. I can participate in these conversations directly right from within the application. A feature I mentioned earlier, which is also very important for information discovery, is the alerts feature. It's available by tapping on the social content hub and then alerts. You can see all the alerts that I've received in the past. Effectively, this allows me to navigate with a single tap to the corresponding location, allowing me to track new versions of content that gets uploaded. A very important functionality of SharePoint 2013 that SharePoint fully supports is the social collaboration features, such as the news feed, mentions, follows, likes, and so on. So in this view, for example, you can see for my specific user, my news feed, all of my status updates, all of the responses that my colleagues have submitted, and also the content that I'm following, and the content that I've added here. You can tap on mentions. That shows me all the posts of other users where I'm mentioned, so I can be notified of conversations where my input is needed. I can also see people I'm following, people that are following me. I can also see content that I have liked. So this provides you with one-tap access to content that's frequently used, one-tap access to content that is relevant to me. And this is very important because it also drives the recommendation engine. So it allows SharePoint to find out what content is interesting to me. And SharePoint uses that to recommend new files for me to follow based on the files that people I'm following are following or are editing or are viewing very often. So it's a powerful way to interact with content that's delivered by SharePoint 2013 that's fully supported in SharePoint Enterprise. So this shows you the user level functionality provided by SharePoint Enterprise. However, what makes SharePoint an enterprise mobility solutions as opposed to just an application? One, that's enterprise application distribution. So you can distribute the application centrally and internally, as opposed to having to set up each and every individual device manually by downloading the application from the App Store. That's a big productivity winner right there, because IT actually doesn't have to get each and every device in to have it set up through the App Store. The second big win of using SharePoint Enterprise is central configuration. This allows you to pre-configure sites that users have to access. So this relieves them from typing URLs themselves. This allows you to whitelist editors. For example, you can pre-configure editors. For example, they wouldn't have to choose from the variety of editors they have installed which editor they have to use. They can directly be taken to the editor that you specify and the editor that you standardized on and approved as safe. You can also feature trim the application. For example, you can prevent users from emailing each other documents or from accessing certain features of the application. That's entirely up to you. And central configuration is paramount to the productivity of the mobile user, because it allows you to ensure that the application is configured the very first time it's used. So it has all the sites, launchpads, and editors configured. Your users can directly start using the content. The third very important feature provided by SharePoint Enterprise is Mdm integration. We support integration with mobile RN, specifically App Connect, App Tunnel, also Citrix MDMs, and so on. SharePoint Enterprise is the only version of SharePoint where you get regular application updates, and you're entitled to new versions as long as you're an active customer. In addition to that, we have an in-house service organization which can build advanced launchpads for you. Having created the product, of course, we have a lot of experience creating these launchpads, so we can create these interactive mashups which allow your users to be truly productive. On top of that, and most importantly, I have to say, SharePoint Enterprise is the only version of SharePoint that's supported with priority support. So you have access to phone, chat, and forum support, and will help you address any issues, any questions you have with the application. So I hope this gives you a good idea of how SharePoint Enterprise allows users to effectively navigate, discover, and collaborate using SharePoint content both online and offline. SharePoint has already allowed many organizations to reap the benefits of enterprise workforce mobility, and would be happy to help you leverage our solution to make your mobile workers truly productive.